All right, welcome to the Take Your Health Back Now podcast. I am Jenny Wise, and this is Kendra Duquette. We are experts in everything preventative health. We work one-on-one with clients and also have a membership, an online platform, all kinds of amazing resources. If you don't know anything about us, check out our website, check out our past podcasts. We have a private Facebook community that you can join to see these podcasts earlier. And feel free to like and share. All right,
Yes.
so today's topic is going to be all about the liver. So this is kind of a buzzword for a while now. Things like liver detox, liver dysfunction, fatty liver. People are hearing these things, and the liver connects a lot of things, and it's really important to understand that function before you take any kind of steps to try and resolve issues. So we're going to jump into what the liver does and problems with the liver and how to resolve those.
Right. And why we decided to do this today was because it drives me crazy because we keep seeing experts in the field talking about doing liver detox. It's all about detox, just detoxing from heavy metals, molds, parasites, whatever they happen to be talking about. But the problem is, and we'll kind of go into that, is that if you already have an overburdened liver, which if you're having any kind of chronic illnesses, disease, symptoms, you do, doing a liver detox can be the worst thing for you.
Right.
So, we'll kind of talk about that, but also fatty liver is a big buzzword right now, like Jenny said, because it's becoming a huge issue. It used to be like when I was young, I remember fatty liver disease was because of overconsumption of alcohol. People that were alcoholics would get
Really, any kind of
the
liver issues that you heard
right.
about, in the past were almost always associated with that. So kind of
Right.
like on purpose having too many toxins in your body.
Right.
So any kind of liver dysfunction kind of was you blamed the person almost, or, oh, that's sad. They have that addiction and that's why that happened. But the liver is there to detox everything. Like, it's connected to all of our natural detox systems. It has all kinds of jobs. It connects to all kinds of other organs and systems. So, it's not just when we have things like alcohol that we're consuming on purpose. It is all of these daily toxins that we are consuming or being exposed to that our liver has to deal with. And it's just to the point where that one organ can't do it all by itself. So you have to support it, or you're going to end up with pretty significant dysfunction and disease. And if you then tried okay, well, then let's detox it. Well, if you just detox it, you're going to release even more toxins. You're going to cause a huge amount of stress. You're connected to all those other things, which it's going to impact. And you haven't changed the root cause to begin with. So you are not making any change.
Right. And fatty liver disease now, as opposed to 40 years ago, say, now it's 4 in 10 adults, I think, 40% of all adults in America. Of course, we're always the worst in the whole world. But it's also becoming a chronic condition with children, which is crazy. And so, so there's a lot of talk about it, but it's not just fatty liver, there's liver disease, there's liver dysfunction. So what we're talking about encompasses all of those things. And so basically, if you think about the liver, I think most of us know that the liver is one of our major detoxification organs, right? It is not the only one. A lot of times people think of the liver as the detoxification method. We have the kidneys, respiration, the lungs, the skin, breath. Right. But it is a major piece of the detoxification for your body. And it also has, hundreds of other functions as well. That's just the one that we tend to focus on. But it also helps with digestion. you know, so if you're having GI issues, the upline would be the liver. It helps metabolize your fats, helps you digest your fats, you know, not the digestion part, but just fats in general, how much, you know, fats are going out and the balancing of the fats, that type of thing. Cleaning the blood, that's where the detoxification methods come in. What else? I wrote down a few things. Oh, another thing that we don't often think about is your liver is actually what manufactures bile. You know, we talk about gallbladder all the time. People are having their gallbladders removed like crazy, but where the liver is like the precursor to the gallbladder. So we also need to talk about how this is a holistic approach to the body. You know, we talk about this a lot in our podcast. If you listen to us, it's not just the liver standalone. You know, it's whole body. So the liver affects many different things, hundreds of different, you know, parts and pieces of the body, but also there's a big downline and an upstream with your liver as well that affects overall health in general. And then I had written down 100% of the time, liver disease, liver dysfunction, fatty liver, all the liver things is preventable. You can prevent it if you take measures, you know, ahead of time. About 75%, if you've gotten to the point where you have enough damage that your body can't necessarily regenerate anymore. And the liver is a really regenerative organ too, by the way. But, you know, your body can get to the point where there's enough damage in place, maybe scar tissue, different things where it can't completely regenerate, but you can stop that downward decline, which is huge because you don't want to get to the point where now you have complete liver failure, you know? So it is preventable and you can slow or stop the damage. So that's really what we want to ultimately talk about. And then I just had, excuse me, I always have a few statistics and I kind of covered them a minute ago. So 40%, 4 out of 10 Americans have fatty liver disease. That's just fatty liver. That's not liver disease in general. Right. And remember that this is just diagnosed. You know, we talk about this a lot too. This is because people went to the doctor and got a diagnosis. This is not even accounting for the people that just have symptoms of some kind.
And because the liver is so enmeshed in all these other symptoms and systems in our body, you don't normally see someone who's like, oh my gosh, I'm having liver issues. I need to go get it checked out. You know, like you can kind of say, oh, I think I'm having a gallbladder attack, or, oh, you know, I'm having a lot of digestive issues, or I'm having a lot of neurological issues. The liver is not something that is like first line of, you know, symptoms that you go in for. So if 4 in 10 people are getting diagnosed with fatty liver, and that's because they've gone for something else and they've kind of gone back or gone forward to point that out. Think about how much other liver dysfunction is going on that people just don't know about. Like, it's not getting into those statistics. It's probably like 8 in 10 or 9 in 10.
Right.
People have some level of liver dysfunction going on.
Right. And remember, you know, people we work with are experiencing chronic symptoms of some kind. They may have a diagnosis of, say, an autoimmune disease, you know, or it may just be they have these random chronic symptoms. But if you have any kind of chronic symptoms going on, whatever it might be, you have liver dysfunction. So 100% of who we live with, or who we work with, people we work with have a liver overburdening of the liver going on, you know, and we talk about a lot about that threshold, you know, the body burden is what's causing these chronic diseases. And that is, the liver is a piece of that. So oftentimes when we work with people, we're just talking to people, it scares them. It's scary to hear that you have liver dysfunction. But just remember that liver dysfunction is simply a symptom. So it's just your body telling you that you have there's too much going on. Your body is breaking down.
You
But it's
need to bring
literally
that
just
burden down.
right. Um, and so back to the statistics. So then this is a crazy statistic. 100 million people in the United States have some form of liver disease. And again, those are people that have been to the doctor.
Yes, diagnosed.
Right. That's an enormous number. Pediatric liver disease is on the rise. So first of all, just the fact there is pediatric liver disease
Right.
is a problem. And the fact it's on the rise. So right now they're saying 10% of children, again, diagnosed, have liver disease. But again, all of this chronic health issues, that children are experiencing, they have an overstressed, overburdened liver. And I guess that was it for the statistics. But those are pretty significant, really.
Yeah, you have to like with the kids and pediatric issues. I mean, they're not, drinking or,
Right.
making their own choices about their diets,
Right.
their exposure to toxins. So that just shows you how just our overall environment and our overall standard lifestyle is so high in toxin exposure, and it really is just creating this burden at such a young age.
Right. And if you really step back and use your cognitive thinking skills, you would recognize that exactly what Jenny just said. Children are not having excessive alcohol consumption or they're alcoholics, and that's what people tend to think of with liver. But and it just shows you that it has to be an environmental issue.
Right.
I mean, it literally has to be an environmental issue. And we're talking all the chemicals around them, around us. We're talking shots. We're talking medications. There's a lot of kids on a lot of medications. We're talking nutrition, so just the fact that it's affecting children and it's going up, it's rising. It's pretty obvious what's causing it. And remember, it's always many, many, many things coming in that are causing this
Right.
big storm within the body. It's not one thing.
No, we're not going to have at the end of this podcast like the magic bullet. Just stop eating this one thing and you'll
Right.
see these amazing, like you get to see those little like cartoon ads on the internet. It's always about like liver or losing weight. And it's like, I'll tell you this one thing that doctors don't want you to know. No, that's not real.
No, it's many, many, many hundreds of things coming in. Yeah, that's causing this perfect storm. I always like to use, I know I've used this in podcasts before, but I'm going to say it again. That whole analogy of what's that game?
Kickball?
No, the other one.
Dodgeball?
Dodgeball. Is that what it
I
is?
mind those are the same
Balls at you?
things.
Yeah, dodgeball. But that's what it is. It always reminds me of that.
Yeah.
When you are standing there and just being pummeled with all of these balls and it's just too much and you're like, "What?"
Right.
That's what liver disease is in a
Yes.
very small nutshell picture. It's just too much coming in. And then we kind of covered this, but the toxins, toxin, remember that word is poison. If you look up the definition of toxin, it equals poison to the body, and chronic poisoning. So a little bit over time, little bit. And it can be acute. I mean, if you got into some poison, if you drank a vat of pesticides or something, or, something, it's a chemical that was very, very toxic, yes, you would cause liver damage, but that's a very small percentage of people that encounter that. It's chronic. It's a little bit over time of all these different toxins coming in. So the toxins that cause liver disease or overburdened liver, here's a short list.
Yeah.
Vaccines, like we said, hopefully we don't get pulled for that word. They're supposed to have stopped censoring, so we'll see.
Now that you said that.
Medication.
Any words all at once, you're flagging us.
Right. Well, medications of any kind
Yeah.
you're on, they're all poison is if you took a whole bottle full of them. So think
Well,
about
they're
that.
poisonous to begin with, and that's why you're supposed to read the pamphlets. If they weren't poisonous, they wouldn't have side effects and they would cure things. So it's just basically what is the side effect of this poison that is a pro and what are the cons?
Right.
And people never look at the cons. They're always like, oh, it fixes this one thing. But I mean, you just listen to the list of things that medications cause and you understand that they're not a, healthy, whole, nutritious thing that you're taking.
And actually, a side effect, oftentimes, if you read everything, is liver issues.
Yeah.
And side effect literally means poisoning. It just does. It's just that it was a smaller amount, so you had a side effect rather than you died. Supplements even can cause liver dysfunction,
Yeah.
just because of the quality of the supplements, what's in them now, especially now. There's more and more and more of them.
Yes.
The synthetic biology, the companies, what they're putting in. So you
The
have to,
additives, the flavors, the textures, and making the shelf lives longer. Plus, people a lot of times they think supplements are just like, I don't know, like food. Like they're just gonna go grab an apple and eat it. They don't need to ask anyone about that. If
right,
you're taking supplements, you're changing the levels of nutrients, minerals, whatever is in the supplements in your body, and you can get too much of things. Like
right.
it is possible and it is becoming more common. So if you're supplementing at a high level over a long period of time, you have to be careful and you really need to take into account why you're doing that and what it's doing to your body.
Right. And that's another thing, we're seeing this more and more in our clinic where people are, there's so much information out there
Yeah.
and there's more and more experts in the field and more information. And so people are starting to, take this, take this, take this. And I'm talking about supplements. But it's a shot in the dark. They don't really know they're deficient in that. They're just assuming because then they have symptom, that kind of thing. And water soluble, some supplements are water soluble, some aren't. So if they're water soluble, like say B vitamins or vitamin C, your body will flush them out.
Right. Anything extra, you're literally being out.
Right. But if they're not water soluble, they're not easy to flush out. So you can definitely overdose on a nutrient or a supplement. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. And then just environmental toxins, which are, everywhere, every piece of your life, there are environmental toxins. And then of course, pesticides, things like that in the farming community, processed foods, sugars, all of those type of things, seed oils that everyone's talking about, which is just one thing. But also something that people don't think about when you're talking about toxins, bacteria. So people that have symptoms always have infections going on, whether it's, bacterial infections, parasites, whatever that might be, but those are toxic to the body. So when they're being eliminated and have to be processed through your liver, that is also adding to the burden of your liver. Molds, there's a lot of people that are having mold issue, it's another toxin, aflatoxins, different things that you come in contact with, and that can even be in foods. Again, your liver is having to process all of this stuff. The chemtrail sprays, what they're spraying, you've got heavy metals, you've got pesticides of different kinds, you've got all kinds of things that are now being proven because there's thousands and thousands of tests of what is being sprayed on us. Even the fiberglass little pieces that are, raining down on us that we're breathing in and have to go through. So all of this is being
Right. And if your liver is not functioning correctly, those toxins, which would normally get filtered out and go out through some of your waste systems, are now just kind of your body doesn't know what to do with it because it hasn't been filtered. It's not getting removed from the body. So it has to put them somewhere so that they won't float around causing problems. So the body likes to put those in fatty tissues. So we're seeing a lot of toxin buildup in the brain, heavy metals. They're tying this to all kinds of diseases now. And you get just fat cells all over the body where this is being stored, and then your body doesn't want to let go of those. So this adds also to the obesity epidemic that we have. And all of
Right.
this, it's really hard to lose weight because your body doesn't want to let go of these toxin-filled fat cells, and you're not doing anything to support your natural detox systems.
Right. And they're called oxygens. And so like Jenny said, that they're stuffed in fat cells, they're stuffed in your organs, they're stuffed in your brains to protect you from them being in your blood. And then, but also, there's a big push with, conventional medicine with, they're looking for polyps. So polyps in your intestinal tract, or polyps here and there, and then they want to remove them because they could potentially be cancerous. But what a polyp is, it's the same type of thing. It's an infection or a toxin or something that your body has this innate intelligence. And so it will encapsulate these poisons, and that forms a polyp. So really removing them sometimes can be the worst thing. And again, those polyps can be, we're talking about liver, but it's all connected. It's all the same thing. So those
Yeah.
polyps can be reabsorbed by the body and eliminated properly if systems of the body are working properly, such as your liver. So
Yeah, and the liver
keep that in
really
mind.
truly is one of the things that has obvious connections to everything in the body. So it is really
Right.
even hard to talk about it in its own, entity. So thinking about when you're trying to support reverse dysfunction, heal disease, it really and truly makes sense that you can't do that by only focusing on liver in its main functions, because it is so tied to all these other things.
Right. Yeah, and it's also one of the, I don't know, there's lots of organs that people, it's just a standalone. People think of just the liver by itself, or just, but I've got a note of the chart of the whole upstream, downstream, and I'll just kind of go over that because people don't think about that. They
Yeah.
just don't. But that's why you have to take this really broad-based look at what's happening in your body, and think of the liver dysfunction as a symptom of many different things going on, causing it. And then I just wanted to say, we talked about what's causing the toxins that are causing this overburdening of the liver, but also there's some things that exacerbate that, problem. So I always think of like the blender analogy, so you've got all of the toxins, you've got the liver dysfunction, now you've got your blender on full blast going like this, just agitating everything. So lack of sunlight, so that's a problem right now, again, with the chemtrails. And literally, if you don't like the word chemtrail and think it's made up or conspiracy theory or whatever, they're talking about solar radiation, management.
Right, like
That's real. It's
geoengineering
all the same
is,
thing.
yeah, that's
Um,
in the news, geoengineering. And
right. But that's what they're doing for climate change, is covering the sun. So that is affecting us. That's how we get our vitamin D. But
our standard lifestyle is becoming a lot more indoors.
right, right. So
Get
it's that we're indoors. It's people slather themselves in sunscreen. It's lots of different reasons. But when you have lack of the sun coming in, you have vitamin D deficiency. But also on the flip side of it, your liver is what synthesizes that. The sun comes in to your skin. That's how we absorb it. But then your liver is what synthesizes it into vitamin D that we can use. So when your liver is not functioning properly, even if you're getting enough vitamin D from the sun, your liver then is not synthesizing the vitamin D for you to be able to use. And then it comes back around the cyclical effect like it always does. And the fact that there's not enough vitamin D causes an issue for the liver. So the liver not functioning causes vitamin D deficiency, and then the deficiency causes issues with the liver. So that is something that exacerbates that
And
problem.
that also is this SAD, or seasonal affect
Right.
disorder, that is just like skyrocketing in the last few years. And it's totally tied to the same thing. It's not just that all of a sudden people can't deal with seasons changing. Like we've had seasonality throughout human history, and really in the past it was a lot colder and a lot gloomier and a lot winterier more of the time.
Right.
So all of a sudden we can't deal with having, winter. And it's just because our bodies are getting so little vitamin D that now that if you take away even that little bit, it has a huge impact on the body. But now the resolution for that would be to go take medication for, a neurological or a mental disorder that's going to add to your liver dysfunction.
Right. And on top of that, or a supplement,
Yeah.
but that is generally a synthetic vitamin D. And remember, always, if you supplement your body, whether it's medication or a supplement, if you give yourself vitamin D that we're talking about right now, then your body's like, oh, I've got some. I don't need to
All right.
make it.
Thanks,
So
guys, I'm gonna go work on some other stuff.
right, exactly. So there's that too. And again, there's so much that plays into this. And this is why people can't turn around their symptoms on their own, because there is so much, and why people are so overwhelmed. Another thing is EMF exposure. So EMF exposure affects many different areas of our body, but when it comes to our liver, it actually, like we said, the liver is supposed to regenerate, but it actually causes those cells that are dying off to not regenerate. And then, like we mentioned with the fatty, it's replaced by fat to hold that structure in the body, because it has to be a certain shape to hold all the organs in place. So, but EMFs have a big part of that. And that would be anything usually that's wireless, or if you live close to a cell tower, or you've got your phone or your computer, earbuds or a smartwatch, those type of things. And the other thing to think about is at night is when your liver regenerates. That's when it works. That's when you heal. So if you're someone that's sleeping with a smartwatch, or you're sleeping with the phone right next to your bed, or your bed is next to the smart meter on your house, that's causing a problem for your liver, a big problem. And then we had mentioned briefly about the liver detoxes. That's a forced liver detoxification that just pushes all of those toxins out of your body. And if your liver is already overburdened and not functioning properly, on top of things like leaky gut, where now the toxins are going out into the blood where they shouldn't be, and recycling, that can be the worst thing. So would say always avoid those unless you have gotten to the point where you're healthy and healing, and then you're doing natural detoxes anyway. So
think about it this way. If your liver is the thing that filters toxins and gets them to the other organs to get them out of the body, right? Like that's a big job. If you're saying, hey, liver, here's this thing that's going to come in and zap all those toxins out of the liver, push them out. Now they're going to circulate, and the liver is the thing that's supposed to take them in and tell them where to go so that they can go out, but the liver isn't functioning. So now all you're doing is putting more burden on the liver because you're getting it out of there, but then it has to cycle back through.
It's like taking a big garbage truck full of crap that instead of dumping it, well, you shouldn't be dumping a bunch of garbage anyway, anywhere, but instead of dumping it out, I mean, because your liver, once it's dumping the toxins, the liver is what causes the toxins to go out through your stool. Kidneys are for urine, liver is for your stool. So rather than that garbage going out through your stool the way it should, now it's just dumping it back into your internal environment. So think about like if you have a fish tank, or now you're dumped a bunch of garbage in your fish tank, and it's just gonna keep
so the garbage truck is coming down the street and it's picking up the cans of garbage and it's filling the back, right? All of a sudden the back is full, so we can't put anything else in there, so the garbage truck is not working because it can't pick up any more garbage, right? And now instead of taking that garbage truck on its route and dumping it where it should go, we just take a bomb, put it in the back, and explode it all out. So now the
inside your
garbage truck
body.
is empty and you can pick up more things. But now it
Right.
has to pick up all that same garbage that it just dumped out on the street.
And not just that garbage, all the new garbage
Yes.
that's coming in. And then that's where we get that
Yeah.
too much. Like for instance, I'm pointing over here because I have a turtle
Yeah.
tank over here. And the water right now is really cloudy. It looks terrible because all of a sudden the filter is not working, which is
Right.
getting remedied tomorrow. But anyway, but it's cloudy, so it's like your liver. The filter, it's working, but not at optimal level. So it's processing some toxins are going out of the tank, but a lot of it's still there. So it's cloudy, it's not a good environment.
Right.
So we need to take care of that. But that's you see that fish tank analogy a lot. But that is the internal, the terrain that
And
you're
that's where most people are at. Like there's dysfunction, it's not working properly, but if they take some focused action for overall foundational health, then they can get it working again and it will naturally clear. If you get to the point where that filter itself is just busted, then it's going to be harder. It's never going to work at optimal levels, but it can still improve, you know.
right. Exactly. And with my turtle tank, I have to keep feeding the turtle and the fish so that food, turtles are really messy, by the way. And so all of that food, the waste products they're making, their turtle poop and fish poop and all of that, if the filter isn't keeping up with it, there's more and more and more in the tank, even though the filter is working part way. So, I mean, that is the same thing as the liver. Just a really long analogy. And then I also wanted to say that just because, again, fatty liver, we hear that a lot. People are concerned about fatty liver because it's a buzzword now. But remember, and we kind of talked about this with the liver synthesis, the cells, we talked about that. The cells die off, they don't regenerate, so then they're replaced with fat. And then the EMF exposure, like I said, so I guess we talked about that. But then the other thing I just wanted to make sure you understand, which we have mentioned, but I just want to reiterate, is that liver disease, liver dysfunction is a one root cause symptom.
Yeah.
Chronic disease. So always remember that. And then that chart that I was going to talk about, the upstream and the downstream. So if you think about your cells in your body, you have trillions of cells in your body, right? That's what makes us, is our cells. So your cells take in nutrients and then they eliminate waste, just like a live organism would. So that waste goes into the interstitial fluid, which then goes into the lymphatic fluid, which then goes into the blood. Now the blood goes into the liver, and this is a very rudimentary example, even though it sounds like a lot. Blood goes into the liver for detoxification. It's overburdened, so it's not making as much gall or bile, which is produced to help you digest your food. Then that affects the gallbladder. So now the gallbladder is not getting the bile. So you get gallbladder stones. It also affects the pancreas. Pancreas is now not producing enough insulin, blood sugar irregularities, liver's inflamed, pancreas is inflamed because there's a direct correlation. And then that addresses, the GI tract. So now you're not able to digest your foods as well. Then you get leaky gut. Then you get dysbiosis with infections. All of this just keeps going. So you can see what I'm saying. And then all of that causes oxidation and problems for the cells, and it just keeps going all the way down. So liver is just a piece of that giant puzzle. And it sounds like a lot. Maybe that's too much information for you, but I just want you to get the idea that you literally have to take this really, step back and take this really big look at what's happening in your body. Your
Yeah.
body is an ecosystem and everything is affecting everything else.
Right. And like we've always advocated and we support people through these journeys, you have to look at your foundational health. So you do have to take a period of what we would describe as detox, but it's kind of like the way that people have kind of changed the term diet. They think diet is, this specific regimen. So detox is this specific regimen. We're just talking about natural detoxification. So you have to remove what is the interference. There's a lot of them. That takes a bit of time. And then you have to let the body heal so that its natural detox systems can get back to working order. And you can support that. There are definitely ways to support those systems, to help them in healing, and then just to naturally support them when you are healthy, because we have this crazy unhealthy world. So they need some support. And you have to do this kind of gradually over time so that you're making change, removing interference, letting healing happen constantly. If you just take one of these, like, 7-day detox, crazy drinks or pills, whatever they are, it's not going to create any kind of lasting change. Even if it worked how it's supposed to, it's not going to fix things. You might feel better for a short amount of time, but you're not fixing anything. You have to take that foundational approach. We love to help people do that, but there's ways to do that without us. But if you don't make those kind of changes, then you aren't going to have any kind of significant or sustainable improvement.
Right. And another thing to think about that we're seeing a lot now when we talk to people in the clinic, people are getting more aware of what's happening. And people are getting, and once they're aware, then their eyes open a little bit, and then they start going down the rabbit hole and they start learning and about all of this stuff. But then they are overwhelmed and looking for answers. And generally, when people get to us, they have started, on their own journey of finding answers. And so they're doing, some good things, some really good things. But the problem is you can start doing all these good things, but unfortunately, your body, you're in a hot mess now. That's the problem,
Right.
internally. And that's really hard to turn around on your own. So you have to, if you think about symptoms, including just liver dysfunction as a symptom, it all is caused by there are underlying causes. And then you have to also address, like what Jenny was talking about, the cause, what caused those underlying causes in the first place. So you have to address the metabolic dysfunction, but also what caused that metabolic dysfunction in the first place. And that's literally the only way to turn it around and prevent, also, eliminate symptoms, prevent them from coming back or getting them at all. But it's just becoming harder and harder for people because internally people are just, because of this very unhealthy world that we're living in right now, just hot mess is the only word I could think of. I also had just some symptoms. So a lot of times when you're having liver dysfunction, there are no symptoms.
Right.
And like Jenny mentioned in the beginning, it's not like you get an inflamed gallbladder or gallbladder stones, you have acute pain. I mean, you're in severe pain. You have that problem. Liver, you don't feel it. Even if you have pretty severe liver issues, it takes a lot before you're feeling the pain. And you're really only feeling the pain once it's inflamed. And so there aren't very many symptoms, but just something to look for. And remember, it's just a symptom of an overburdened body. But if you're waking between 1 and 3 in the morning, a lot of times that's a symptom of liver dysfunction, because that's when the liver works. That's when it regenerates, when you're in that really deep sleep. So if you're waking, it's just a sign that it's overburdened. Yellowing, I think we all know that, jaundice, yellowing of the eyes or the skin. And that can also be a sign of you ate too many tangerines or too many carrots, carrot juices. But it's a little bit different. So, when you're seeing the yellowing of the eyes and the skin or the skin, that's liver dysfunction. Dark urine, which can also be a sign of kidney dysfunction. So a lot of these things, it's a sign, it's a symptom, but it can also be something else.
Right.
It can make you crazy. But these are just things to kind of look for. And literally, they just show you that you have this metabolic dysfunction. If your poop is light colored, that's usually a pancreas issue, which is a liver issue. Vitamin D deficiency that we mentioned, fatigue, like a musty smelling of your breath, kind of an odoriferous smell with your breath. Inability to lose weight, we talked about that, and also inability to gain weight.
Right.
And those are both just chronic symptoms that we deal with all the time, but they can be a result of liver, because liver is one of the root causes. Cognitive issues, brain fog, things like that. Digestive issues, because again, it's all connected all the way down. Inability to process fats. Also itchy skin. A lot of times people will say they have itchy skin on a lot of times your palms or your bottom of your feet, but no rash. It's just itchy. So that can be a symptom as well. And then I just had how to prevent and reverse, and we already talked about that. We just talked about that a minute ago. And I did want to say too, I thought this was interesting, that magically, now that chronic liver disease and fatty liver and all of this is on the rise, magically, a new medication just came out in 2024 to help with that. So avoid that, just to things that you need to do to turn it around, because that will just add to that liver dysfunction.
Right.
Might put a little band-aid on the symptoms, but it's not going to fix anything, like Jenny had said earlier. So that's pretty much it. So if you've had a diagnosis of fatty liver disease, or
right, reduced liver function,
right, and just remember, you can always prevent it, and that's really what you want to do first and foremost, always, is prevent it from ever happening.
That is the best. That's the best
Right.
option. Don't get the dysfunction to begin with.
Right. But then if you do, and you do have damage by the time you actually figure it out, remember, you can stop it. So usually you can reverse it. If it gets too bad, you can at least stop that downward decline. You can always turn it around until you can't. That sounds bad, but there's always a point with the body where there is too much damage has been done. But that's literally the end stages. So there's a lot that can be done, and just remember that it is 100% preventable. Didn't have to have it in the first place. So hopefully this helped. Good information for you, because that is a big topic. But take action. Take action. If you need a plan, of course, you can always reach out to us, because this is what we do. And if you want to try it on your own, or you have someone else you're working with, but do take action. You have to take action, because even if you think you're not having symptoms, it's affecting all of us, what is going on in our world. So you're not getting a free pass. Just remember that.
No, and you can't just say, I eat really healthy, I eat really clean, so these things won't affect me. Or I exercise all the time, I'm in very good shape, so these things won't affect me. Because again, it's not just one thing. It's not coming in from one place. It is systemic in our internal and external environment. You have to address all of those things. So when you are taking action, do not take those little tiny, very pinpoint actions. You have to take very like whole, holistic, system-wide, environment-wide action.
Right. Yeah, so hopefully that helped, and we are back on track with the podcast, so we will be back next week with another topic.
Yeah, and if you're watching us on YouTube, if you subscribe, then whenever there is a new episode, it will let you know. You can also go to our website or our Facebook group and register for our email list, and then you'll know when things are coming out. Lots of ways to get information, lots of ways to consume this information. So, subscribe, like, share with others. Our goal here is to get this information out to everybody. So everybody is welcome. So we will see you next time and enjoy your week.
Bye.
Bye.